Your bank account is being managed by a 7-year-old child, and quite frankly, they are terrified. You think you are the one making your financial decisions. You think your salary, your education, and your logic dictate your wealth. You are wrong. By the time you blew out the candles on your 7th birthday cake, your financial destiny was already written. It was not written by your IQ or your job title. It was written by a silent script installed in your mind before you could even do long division. Most high earners spend their entire lives trying to budget their way out of psychological problems. They earn more, they save more, yet they never feel free. Today, we are not talking about tactics. We are going to rewrite the code that controls them. Here is the cold reality that most financial gurus miss. A specific study from Cambridge University confirmed that your core money habits are formed by age 7. Think about that. Age 7. At that age, you did not know what a 401k was. You did not understand inflation, yield, or compound interest. But you understood emotion, and that is where the problem begins. Neuroscientists refer to this phase of development as the imprinting period. From birth until age 7, your brain operates largely in a theta wave state. This is the same brain state adults enter during deep hypnosis. It means you had no critical faculty. You had no ability to reject ideas. You were a sponge, downloading everything you saw and heard as absolute non-negotiable survival rules. If you saw your parents tense up every time the bill came at a restaurant, you did not logically think mom and dad are managing cash flow. You downloaded a rule. Spending is dangerous. If you heard silence every time money was mentioned, you did not think they value privacy. You downloaded a rule. Money is shameful. These are not just memories, they are operating systems, and this is exactly why you can make $500,000 a year and still feel a knot in your stomach when you buy a coffee. You are trying to run a Fortune 500 life using software designed by a frightened first grader. The problem is not your income. It is that you are fighting a war against your own subconscious, and until today, you have been losing. So, how do we find this code? We have to go back to the scene of the crime. I want you to mentally return to your childhood dinner table. The conversation around money in that room usually falls into one of 4 distinct scripts. Psychologists have categorized these patterns for decades, and I guarantee you are acting out one of them right now. See if you can spot yourself. The first script is avoidance. In these households, money was treated like a dirty word. Maybe your parents said things like rich people are greedy or money corrupts the soul. Or perhaps there was just a heavy, suffocating silence. If you grew up here, your nervous system views money as a threat. Today, as a high-achieving adult, this manifests in a very specific way. You might earn $300,000 a year, yet you ignore your statements. You delay invoicing clients. You unconsciously sabotage deals because deep down, you believe having money makes you a bad person. You are pushing away the very thing you are working so hard to get. The second script is worship. This is the belief that money is the cure-all. You heard, if we just had more money, everything would be okay. You saw money as the only path to safety or freedom. The adult manifestation of this is the treadmill. You hit a financial milestone, say your first million, and you feel nothing. No relief, no joy, just a moving goalpost. You are chasing a feeling that money cannot scientifically provide. I know founders who sold their companies for 8 figures and woke up the next day more depressed than when they were broke. Why? Because you are trying to use money to solve an internal emotional problem. The third script is status. This is where self-worth gets tangled with net worth. If your parents use money to keep score, comparing themselves to neighbors or buying cars to prove a point, you learned that your value as a human being is a number on a spreadsheet. This is the most dangerous script for high achievers. It is why you might feel like a failure despite being in the top 1% of earners. You are not building wealth for freedom, you are building it for validation. And validation is a bottomless pit. It is insecurity with a high credit limit. The fourth, and perhaps the most deceptive script, is vigilance. This looks like good financial behavior on the surface. These families were obsessed with saving, terrified of debt, and anxious about every penny. Now pause here, because this is where most people get it wrong. You might think, well, vigilance sounds responsible. That is how you build wealth. But there is a massive difference between being prudent and being panicked. If you save 50% of your income because you have a clear vision for your future, that is financial health. But if you save 50% of your income because you are terrified that one wrong move will leave you destitute, that is not discipline. That is trauma masquerading as strategy. I know multimillionaires who cannot buy a $5 coffee without a spike of cortisol. They have the money, but they do not have the wealth. They are still that 7-year-old child waiting for the other shoe to drop. So look at your current financial life, not the math, the emotion. Do you feel anxiety when you spend? Do you feel shame when you want more? Do you feel numb when you achieve a goal? These emotional spikes are the breadcrumbs leading back to that 7-year-old's interpretation of the world. Your parents were not trying to hurt you. They were just downloading their own fear onto you. They were running scripts passed down from their parents who likely lived through wars or depressions, but you are not them, and you are no longer 7. Now that we have identified the glitch in the system, we have to ask the obvious question. If this code was hardwired into our brains when we were children, can we actually change it as adults? Or are we stuck this way? The answer lies in a concept called neuroplasticity, but the way you use it is completely counterintuitive to everything you have been told about discipline. Neuroplasticity is often sold as a self-help buzzword, but in clinical terms, it is simply the brain's ability to build new highways. Right now, your brain has a superhighway dedicated to your money script. If your script is avoidance, you have a thick paved high-speed neural connection that links opening a bank statement directly to pain. The moment you see that envelope, the signal travels down that highway before your conscious mind even wakes up. You feel the urge to shred it, hide it, or distract yourself before you have even read the balance. This is why discipline fails. Most people try to fight these highways with willpower. You tell yourself, I am going to sit down and be responsible. You force yourself to look at the numbers, but you are trying to use your prefrontal cortex, the logical, modern part of your brain, to overpower your limbic system, the ancient emotional part that thinks you are about to die. In a head-to-head fight between logic and survival, survival wins every single time. When you force yourself to budget while your body is screaming in terror, you are not fixing the problem. You are actually reinforcing it. You are proving to your subconscious that dealing with money is painful, hard, and requires a massive fight. You are deepening the very groove you are trying to escape. So the hidden truth is not that you lack self-control, it is that you have a regulation problem, not a spending problem. Your nervous system has a financial thermostat. We all have a specific level of wealth, success, and ease that feels safe to us. If you are a worshiper or status chaser, your thermostat might be set to high anxiety. You only feel safe when you are hunting, grinding, and stressing. If you suddenly have a month of passive income where you did not have to suffer for the money, your alarm bells go off. It feels wrong. It feels unearned. So, you unconsciously create a crisis. You pick a fight with a partner, you make a risky investment, or you overspend just to get back to the stress level that feels like home. Conversely, if your script is scarcity, your thermostat is set to low resources. If you suddenly get a $50,000 bonus, your nervous system registers that excess capital as a threat. It is too much visibility. It is too much responsibility. So, you get rid of it. Maybe not all at once, but you will notice the car breaks down, or you need a renovation, or you simply let it leak out in small, invisible ways until you are back to the struggle, back to the number that feels safe. This is why lottery winners go broke. It is why high earners live paycheck to paycheck. They are constantly regulating their bank account down to match their internal setting. To change this, we have to stop talking about math and start talking about safety. You cannot rewrite your money code by simply thinking different thoughts. The brain does not learn from information, it learns from experience. To build a new neural highway, you have to have a new experience with money while feeling safe. This is the missing link. You have to expose yourself to the trigger, whether that is spending money on yourself, looking at a debt, or asking for a raise, and then, in that exact moment, you have to regulate your body. You have to teach your amygdala, look, we are doing this scary thing and we are not dying. If you can hold that state of calm while engaging with money, the brain essentially says, oh wait, this is not a tiger, this is just a spreadsheet. That is the moment the code rewrites itself. It sounds simple, but it requires a level of awareness most people never develop. They are too busy judging themselves for being bad with money to notice that their body is simply running a safety program. So, how do we actually do this? How do we manually intervene in a process that happens in milliseconds? We have to interrupt the pattern. We need a new protocol that bypasses the 7-year-old pilot and puts the adult back in the cockpit. And it starts with a technique I call the financial pause. The financial pause is not a meditation technique, it is a biological circuit breaker. Most people try to change their financial life by changing their spreadsheet. They vow to stop spending, or they promise to finally organize their taxes. But when the moment comes, the anxiety hits, and they default back to the old script. Why? Because they are trying to negotiate with a chemical reaction. When you are triggered by money, whether it is the dopamine hit of a potential purchase or the cortisol spike of an unexpected bill, your brain is instantly flooded with neurochemicals. In that specific moment, your prefrontal cortex, the part of you that understands logic, consequences, and long-term goals, effectively goes offline. You are chemically incapable of making a rational decision. This is where the pause comes in. Neuroscience tells us that the chemical lifespan of an emotional reaction is roughly 90 seconds. From the moment the trigger hits to the moment those chemicals flush out of your bloodstream, it takes about a minute and a half. If you act within that 90-second window, you are not acting, you are reacting. You are operating on the software of a terrified 7-year-old. So, here is the protocol. The next time you feel a financial trigger, maybe you see a luxury watch you suddenly need, or you see an email from your bank that you desperately want to ignore, you do not force yourself to do the right thing. You simply do nothing. You freeze. You literally look at the trigger, feel the tightness in your chest or the buzz in your head, and you wait. You are not trying to fix the feeling. You are not trying to talk yourself out of it. You are just watching it, like a storm passing outside your window. This sounds passive, but it is actually aggressive neurological work. By sitting with the discomfort of money without acting on it, you are sending a radical new signal to your amygdala. I am experiencing this trigger, and I am safe. No tiger is attacking me. If you fight the feeling, you validate the threat. If you sit with the feeling, you dismantle it. After about 90 seconds, you will feel a physical shift. The tension drops. The urgency fades. That is the moment your logical brain comes back online. That is the moment the adult re-enters the cockpit. Now, you can make a decision. You might still buy the watch, or you might still dread the email, but it will be a choice, not a reflex. This is how neuroplasticity actually works in the real world. You do not rewrite your money code by reciting affirmations in the mirror. You rewrite it by surviving the impulse over and over again until your brain realizes that money is no longer a threat to your survival. You are building a new highway, one 90-second pause at a time. But once you master the pause, you need to know exactly what to do with that newfound clarity. Because breaking the pattern is only step 1. Step 2 is replacing it with a system that protects you from your own worst instincts. Breaking the pattern with the pause is powerful, but it is only half the battle. If you stop the bleeding but never stitch the wound, you will eventually bleed out again. You need to understand that your nervous system loves familiarity more than it loves success. Left unchecked, it will always try to drag you back to the financial temperature it knows best. If you are used to chaos, peace will feel boring. If you are used to struggle, ease will feel suspicious. This is why the ultimate goal of wealth psychology is not happiness, it is not excitement, and it certainly is not status. The goal is neutrality. True financial freedom is the ability to look at a massive expense or a massive windfall and feel absolutely nothing. No spike, no drop, just data. When money becomes boring, you have finally mastered it. As long as money makes you emotional, it owns you. Whether you are worshipping it or avoiding it, you are still its slave. The moment you can engage with your finances without your heart rate rising is the moment you move from being a servant of your past to the architect of your future. Most people think the opposite of poverty is wealth. It is not. The opposite of poverty is safety. For that child inside you, safety meant predictability. Your job now is to prove to your brain that you can have abundance and still be safe. That is the only way the money stays. Remember that 7-year-old we talked about? The one terrified at the dinner table? They were doing the best they could with the limited information they had. They were trying to keep you safe in a world they did not understand. But you do not need their protection anymore. You can thank them for their service, acknowledge the fear they carried for you, and then kindly relieve them of their duties. Because your net worth will never consistently exceed your self-worth. You can grind and save until you burn out, but until you rewrite the internal code that dictates what you deserve, you will always find a way to lose what you build. The math is easy. The psychology is the work. If this shift in perspective resonated with you, and you want to master the mind behind the money, consider subscribing. We do not do hype here. We just decode the invisible scripts that drive the visible results. I will see you in the next one.